administrations at the U.S. Agency for International Development. He was working there as a senior official last January when the Trump administration, in an effort led by Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, began to dismantle the agency. I sat down with Enrich to discuss his new book, Into the Wood Chipper, a whistleblower's account of how the Trump administration shredded USAID, out on Tuesday. So bringing back to January of 2025, you're working at USAID. This is the fourth administration you're working for USAID. What happens?
Yeah, so when the Trump administration was coming in, my role was the director of policy programs and planning for global health. So basically my job was to make sure that we were using taxpayer funding as efficiently as possible to achieve our global health objectives. And I was actually, nervously optimistic about the idea of speaking with DOGE and explaining ideas that I had to increase efficiencies. I thought maybe we could cut through some red tape, pretty naively, of course.
Because it could be more efficient. I mean, there have been people talking about the way foreign aid, specifically U.S. aid, could be done more effectively.
That's right. I mean, any organization can be made more effective, and USAID was no exception to that. I had several ideas of how we could do that and thought that this was, what the Department of Government Efficiency should be about.
What's that first meeting like when you see these guys?
So I never got a meeting with them.
You never got a meeting?
No, I never got a meeting with them. I sat there with my ideas and a list, and I waited for the chance to explain what our programs were like. And I never got to speak about what global health programs did at USAID until the day after almost our entire staff was placed on administrative leave. And when I briefed them that day, I just gave a high-level overview, 5 minutes. These are the infectious diseases we work on. Here's what we do in maternal and child health. High-level overview. And the chief of staff looks at me stunned and says kind of, wow, I had no idea that USAID did this kind of work. When I think about what USAID does in global health, I just assumed it was just, abortions, which is insane because we don't do that. We're prohibited by law from funding abortion. So it was very frustrating for me to not have gotten the chance to brief them before they put all the staff on leave when they didn't even know what we did.
So you decide to become a whistleblower, and you write a series of memos about what the impact of this gutting of U.S. aid will mean in terms of lives lost. What did you find out?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, we were using modeling that all of the different technical teams had used, and we came up. I'll spare you the details, but basically, the estimate was that it could cost up to 2.6 million lives per year. That over
cost, you mean 2.6 million people will die as a result of this?
Would die
per year.
Per year that would not have died otherwise if we had not shut down the agency.
I mean, that's a stat. It's hard to even get your mind around that.
Yeah, I think one thing to note is that conservative estimates have shown, and we're now a year into this, that so far, I mean, as soon as the agency was shut down, we started hearing the individual stories, of pregnant women who were unable to access emergency childbirth services because clinics were shuttered, or families that were forced to choose between which of their children that they would feed because the nutritional supplements that they were receiving from USAID had just suddenly disappeared.
So when the agency was gutted by DOGE, Secretary of State Marco Rubio came out and said, we will preserve the life-saving programs. What happened?
He did say that. He, in fact, issued a waiver to the freeze on foreign assistance to say that we could continue those activities that save lives. But the reality was we were stopped at every turn by the political appointees in DOGE who continuously shrunk the definition of what life-saving meant, who terminated all of our staff who were the experts who would be able to actually implement those programs. They terminated all of the contracts that we needed to do that work. And ultimately, they shuttered the agency. So even though that request was, or that waiver was issued, we were never actually allowed to restart life-saving activities.
So DOGE just ignored the Secretary of State?
Yeah, DOGE, their sole MO, it seemed to be, was just to break things. That was something they were good at.
It's been over a year since you released your memos. When you look back, was it the right thing to do? Was there more that you think you could have done?
I do have regrets. I think that I wish that I had spoken up earlier if I had had the chance. But I will say that I don't overall, I do not regret my decision, even though it's cost me my job and my career. And I hope that my story will encourage others to just remember that normal people can make important decisions, and they do every day.
Nicholas Enrich was placed on administrative leave the day he sent his final memo. The State Department did not respond to ABC News' request for comment in time for this segment.